Hi creatives, welcome back to Agency Academy. Today I want to talk about co-working spaces because I've tried pretty much every different setup of working, and so I thought it would be helpful if some of you have been thinking about maybe joining a co-working space or thinking about the costs of working from your own office versus a co-working space versus perhaps staying at home. And then we're going to see what the pros and cons are, and I'll share my experience with you. So I started off working from home. Then I transitioned to being in a university incubator, which is similar to a co working space, but more in a kind of university setting, and it was free actually. Then I was working from home again, had my own office, and now I'm in a co working space that I really love. So I thought it would be helpful if you're considering it. So I'll talk about the pros and cons, and then hopefully can make it easier for you to make your own decision. So before we dig into the different benefits, I thought it would be helpful to talk about the different kinds of co-working spaces that are out there. So there's usually a couple different setups. Either you can have your own room, so your own office, within a bigger office space. So this is where you're perhaps sharing a kitchen, you're sharing meeting rooms, and then you still have your own space that you can close the door. The great benefit of this is if you're a person who can easily be distracted by other people around you, it can be nice to be able to close the door, have some privacy, make phone calls, things like that. But it can also be good just to store all your different things and truly have that separation from everyone else. Another option is to have a hot desking space, and that means that there's an open landscape of different desks, and then you can pick one wherever it's free. Usually people don't have an allocated space, but it's more of a first come, first serve. In my experience, people still do kind of tend to take the same spaces every day because we're very much creatures of habit. So if you're kind of worried about having to shuffle around too much, I don't think that should be too big of a concern. There's also a couple different setups in terms of the payment plans. So some co-working spaces you have like a monthly subscription where you pay and you're there for the full month, and of course you can go as much as you like, but they're kind of assuming that you'll come every day. Other setups are things like having a 10-day a month or a couple days a week setup, where you can come in a couple days a week, a couple days a month, just to meet with other people, to have a space to go if you really need to feel productive, but it's not like a permanent space. And I think this is perfect if you're thinking about dipping your toe into co-working spaces. Maybe you're really comfortable at home and you want to stay mainly at home, but you just want to meet some other people sometimes, get out of your house a little bit, and it's also really good for networking. So usually these sort of part memberships gives you benefits like getting to attend networking events, maybe there's free coffee, things like that. So when you're deciding if a co-working space is the right fit for you, what are the different things that you should keep in mind? The first thing that I think is really important to think about is your preferred lifestyle. So are you someone who works really efficiently from home? Do you like to have a little bit more separation between home and work? And for me, I work with my husband, which means that everything is kind of work-life integrated. And so in our case, I think it's really nice to have that physical separation of actually having one space to work and one space to have home. And so if you have, let's say, an office room in your house, that might be a sufficient solution. But if you thought about actually, I need to get out of the house, I'm not productive, I keep getting distracted by my laundry, I keep getting distracted by other things, I need to put on real pants, then a co-working space can be a really good option for you. I think it's also such a good mental separation sometimes because it's really easy to get into a situation where you're just pretty much working 24/7. Perhaps you're not thinking in terms of even weekends and normal days anymore. So if you find yourself in that kind of, almost like it feels like you're working all the time or you're not having any more energy for hobbies and things like that, I think having that separation is a really good idea. And my tip, if you're unsure, would be to start with a plan where you go a couple days a month, or even just trying to go to like a cafe once a week and see how you feel in terms of productivity, in terms of just when you get home, can you relax more? And that's a good way to kind of decide if you think a co-working space might be a good fit. The second reason that you can join a co-working space that I found is centered around productivity. So I tend to be the kind of person who just puts my head down and I keep working until I drop off the chair pretty much, which is not always a good thing. So in terms of productivity, it's important for me to prioritize. And this is the same if you're working, nonstop, or if you have a lot of procrastination habits. But being around people in an environment where people come to work, they are productive, they're doing things, you can see them, you can get inspired by other people, you can learn from how they're working. And then at the end of the day, you go home, you leave work, and that's it. So having those routines, it really makes you more productive. It makes you a lot more comfortable, I think, having that work-life separation. And I think it's just really good for inspiration, which is one of the main reasons that I really love co-working spaces. If you're kind of thinking between either having your own office space or joining a co-working space, I think one thing you have to keep in mind is maintenance and costs. So with a co-working space, you're paying one fee, and in that fee you get everything. So most places, they have cleaning included, they have internet included, there might be free coffee, other perks like that. But most importantly, you don't have to think about all those other things. So if you have your own space, it usually does cost more, but you also have to keep in mind all of those things you have to juggle. So you have to pay your electricity bill on time, you have to pay your internet on time. What if it goes down? Then you have to fix it. So just having that place of coming there, it's almost like when you're renting, there's more things that are just fixed for you rather than if you own your own home. So if you're someone who likes to let go of some of those responsibilities and be able to just focus on work, then I think a co-working space is a really good fit from that perspective as well. The next benefit is something we've kind of touched upon before, and that one is perks. So most co-working spaces have some form of perks. Either it can be that you get to join exclusive networking events, you might be getting free snacks or free lunch. A lot of them have really good opportunities to meet people and create new connections. And I think it's just a really nice environment. The one where we are at, they also have discounts on food, and they've partnered up with lots of companies in the city so that you get discounts in other areas of the city that have kind of formed an alliance or a partnership with the co-working space. Another benefit, if you're kind of thinking between working from home or working in a co-working space, is having an office that you're going to, and especially a place to take your clients. It makes you look really professional. So of course, there's nothing wrong with working from home, taking virtual meetings, or meeting your clients at their office space or in a cafe. That's a totally doable option. But if you have meetings where perhaps you want to have a big screen to want to present things, or you want to have like a nice conference room to meet up in, it can be a really good thing to have a co-working space where you can take people in. It looks really professional, it looks really nice, and you're able to entertain customers in a different way. It can also be really good for, let's say you want to take pictures for your social media profile and update people on what your company is doing, what you're doing. And so we often take pictures for our Instagram, for example, in the co-working space. And it's just giving more of a bigger company feel to be in a co-working space than it is to be taking pictures from home. Of course, it depends on what your home setup is, and it depends on the co-working space. It's definitely not something you need to grow, but I found it super helpful, and I thought I would bring it up as a positive. Another thing that can be really good is if you have, we're kind of coming back to that separation again of home and work. And so when I used to work from home, we had to get all of our mail come to our home, which I was always a little bit uncomfortable listing our private home address on our website or in official records online. So having a co-working space where you can actually send your mail, you can register your company, all of those different things where you can really separate those two things and you can have an official business address, that's also something that I think has been super helpful. The last thing I wanted to bring up is something that is really important to me, and I think is really important to you guys as well, which is sustainability. So when you have your own office, then for each person, that's a lot of square meters for heating, for maintenance, and so all these different things are kind of adding up to become a little bit less sustainable. So when you have a co-working space, you're sharing so many of the different surfaces, you're sharing heating, you're sharing bills, and all these things, they become a lot more sustainable. So if that's something that you want to keep in your equation as well, I think that can be a really good point to bring up as well. So I hope you found this helpful. If you like this video, you can like and subscribe the video, share it with another creative, and I think you would also really enjoy our project management series. So in our project management series, we're talking about how to go from feeling a bit unorganized, perhaps a little bit stressed out or unsure how to help clients get even more excited about your projects. And we go through step by step how to create your own project management templates. So if you like this video, go check that one out. I'll put it right here. And I'll see you next time. Good luck creating. Have a nice time. Bye. So now we're going to dive into the template. You can find that in the description below. And then we're going to go through how we created it so that you can add and remove any steps that you find useful or that are not so appropriate for your business. And you can really make it fit your business and your needs.